Hi, welcome to Hope in the Light of Suicide. I'm Tammy White. I'm your host. I'm also the founder and the CEO of the Bobby White Foundation. And we're here thanks to Area 52 Media Group, John Gaston with Area 52 Media Group. And I've got Joseph behind the scenes helping me with my tech work. Thank you to everybody, because if it wasn't for them, we couldn't do this. So it's I honestly, I'm really super grateful because we do tackle probably one of the toughest subjects that anybody has to talk about, and a lot of people won't do it, and a lot of people can't do it. And it's hard. I can't say that it's not hard for me, and it's not hard either for my guys behind the scenes sometimes, because it can get pretty deep. But we try and keep things getting to be a little bit lighter. So, as we travel through this journey, I also need to thank my dear friend DeLynn Gaston with the mortgage firm, Everything Mortgages. She and her entire family has been a great support for me personally through this journey. Professionally, she was actually the first one that I brought the idea of starting our Art for Hope fundraiser and the Bobby White Foundation. She was the first person I talked to about it, and her and her family have been behind me ever since. So I'm really super grateful for them and for a lot of people. So, but today for them. So, anyways, I do want to get in because I've had a couple of people ask me just recently, so I want to make sure that we keep getting it out there. We do have our two support groups here in Tampa Bay, one in West Pasco and one in Spring Hill, and we meet once a month. Our Spring Hill meeting is the second Wednesday of the month at the NAMI Hernando office, and the West Pasco Newport Richie one is at the Oasis Coffee Spot. So for March, our Spring Hill meeting is on March 12th, and our Newport Richie meeting is on March 20th. Excuse me. So if you're local, keep that in your calendar, and we hope we can see you there. There's no charge. You don't have to pre-register. We're just here for each other. It's a peer-to-peer support group. So everybody there has lost someone to suicide, including the facilitators. So it's a safe place for you to come. You don't have to talk if you don't want to. You can if you want to. You can cry if you want to. We do shed some tears, but there it is. I'll try and remember to put that too in the comment section. But you can always find it on our website. That's up on our website, and they'll be also on the Bobby White Foundation Facebook page on our events calendar also. So that's the majority of the housekeeping part. So last week we talked about, when I went to Dr. Wolfelt from the Center for Loss and Life Transition seminar, and then about one of his books. So, and we've reviewed this book one time before, quite a while back, but I wanted to review it again. And we got through the first two Touchstones last week. But before we do that, I wanted to show you something that I picked up. Well, I picked up a couple other books after the seminar, but I picked up these little cards, and go that way. He has in here the Mourner's Bill of Rights. And like I think I had mentioned, we had talked about last week, the difference between grief and mourning. You have to deal with the one to deal with the other. So the grief is really from the inside out, I think, and mourning is from the outside in. But you have to go through both processes, and it's not something that's ever going to be. It's not something that you complete, but you have rights as a mourner. And so before we get into the touchstones, because I have some more really good news about the other thing, the other book, I wanted to go through these touchstones kind of quickly, if I can. Of course, that hardly ever works. But anyways, the Mourner's Bill of Rights, and we'll be giving these to our attendees at our next group meetings also. But they'll be available here at the foundation too, if anybody's interested. So, number one, you have the right to experience your own unique grief. We're all going to grieve differently. We all have different personalities. We're not a one of us are going to grieve the same. Like, even with my brother and sister-in-laws, we all have, our grief has been so much different than each other's. You have the right to talk about your grief. And you do. Sometimes it's hard for people. Some people don't want to listen. So this is when you need to make sure that when you do talk about your grief, that you're talking to or with someone who is, you can trust, who is safe. Kind of like even our groups. It's a safe place. Whatever is said in there, it's for us, and it's safe for people to talk about their feelings and their grief and what they're going through. You have the right to feel a multitude of emotions, which you're going to. It's going to be up and down the worst roller coaster ride that you've ever been on. And I don't do roller coasters very well. So that's just, that's just the way it is. And be sure, please, check out our website, because, we have things on there and we have links on there. And you can go back and you can find older shows of ours on the website. Right on the left-hand side there, you see it says Hope TV Show. So there's direct links to our other shows there too. Okay. Also, you have the right to be tolerant of your physical and emotional limits. Don't be so hard on yourself. And that's hard. I know that, in the beginning, I wasn't as hard on myself as I am now. I've been on this journey for nearly 9 years. We've got, in just a few weeks, will be the anniversary of Bobby's death. March 1st. The circumstances and the timing and surrounding when Bobby took his life. My dad died on March 1st, 9 years ago. And then 5 weeks later, Bobby died. So even now, this time of year, as long with other times of year, it can get to be really difficult. But don't be hard on yourself. Like I said, I find myself doing it more now than I did in the beginning, because I think for myself, I feel like sometimes I should be better than what I am most of the time or all of the time. And it just doesn't work that way. Sometimes you just can't, it just doesn't work that way. You have the right to experience grief bursts. And I don't know if I talked about this before, but grief bursts are when you think you're doing fine, you're going along, and something triggers you, something reminds you of your person, and overwhelming emotion or sadness comes about. Dr. Wolfelt, he's funny. He can bring a lightness and humor to sadness and grief and depth that I've not ever seen anybody do. But he uses the example that his dad was German, but he loved Italian food. It was like German Italian or something. And so when he goes to the grocery store often, when he goes by the pasta aisle, it's kind of like a trigger, and it reminds him of his dad. And he has a multitude of emotions, happiness and sadness, good things, remembering of his dad. And he'll just stand in front of the pasta. And he said sometimes people will come by and just kind of give him funny looks, and he's just like, I'm just having a grief burst, or I'm remembering my dad, and it can happen at any time, anywhere. But give it to yourself. You gotta let the feelings come through you. You can't suppress it, because you don't heal that way. Okay, grievers. You have the right to make use of ritual, which sometimes Dr. Wolfelt says that's where kind of our society has gotten away from that type of thing. But you can do it on your own. Like a lot of people, they'll, put pictures up of your person, of your loved one. And if you have an area where you have memorabilia and stuff, and some people might say, oh, you put a shrine up, and let that just go over your head, because that's for you. That's your ritual. Do what you want to do to remember that person. Again, don't suppress. You don't suppress it, because you don't heal that way. And if they're saying something that's, I don't know, maybe tries to make you feel bad about what you're doing, just ignore it. Go away, people. This is your thing. This is your grief. This is how you want to treat it, and how you want to grow through it. So, any kind of ritual. What do I do? Well, whenever I'm out working in the yard or up on the roof, I always talk to Bobby, because he's supposed to be here doing that job instead of me. But, there's other things I do. Oh, I remember one. And I thought about this after I left the seminar. A lot of times, what I do is, because we used to do this. So when we would be driving somewhere in our truck, we had, this little middle divider thing, and we would hold hands. And I found myself, I still do it, not as much, but I still do it. So when I'm driving somewhere, sometimes I'll just put my hand out on the console, as if we're holding hands. That's just my thing. It makes me feel better. It makes me feel like he's there with me. So, and nobody's going to tell me not to do it. You have the right to embrace your spirituality. So whatever that is for you, embrace it. You're going to need all the help you can get. You have the right to search for meaning. And in the really early stages of this, you probably have no idea, because what could be the meaning of this? Just, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. And it took me a while. I mean, maybe, well, I don't know. You can't, again, it's everybody's journey is different. So it probably took me about 1.5 years, and when I started speaking publicly about what happened, and deciding to start the foundation and the fundraisers, and to help lost survivors, because of the lack of help, when we went through it. Your meaning could be and quite possibly will be different. Maybe your person loved animals. You can go volunteer at a pet shelter, or maybe they like helping the homeless people. Do something that you can do something that's going to reflect them as a person and their personality and who they were. That'll give you meaning. It'll helps give their life meaning, a legacy for them and for you. Mm-hmm. You have the right to treasure your memories, and that you need to hold close to you. And it could be not only just your memories that you can hold close to your heart, but memories of things that you've done with other people, friends that stuck around. There's all kinds of memories. I remember in the beginning from when he helped me, with when my first husband was killed. And it was a traumatic event for him because he saw it. He was there, and but he was the one person besides my grandma that was there every day for me. And then as our life progressed, the things that we did. I mean, the first time that we went to the Daytona 500 the first time, and we were supposed to go back to work, of course, after the race. It was back when you could go see both races on a race weekend, and it didn't cost a whole lot of money. And we camped out, and we were supposed to go back to Fort Lauderdale to go back to work, and we decided we didn't really want to go back to Fort Lauderdale. So instead, we went the opposite direction and went to St. Augustine for a couple days. So that was fun. Yeah. So cherish your memories. And lastly, you have the right to move toward your grief and heal. And there's no timeline. As a matter of fact, it could take the rest of your entire life. It might not, but it might, and that's okay. So anyways, these are available from Dr. Wolfelt's website. So, and he's got another set of cards too, but there's all sorts of books and things that are available from the Center for Loss and Life Transition. And if you want to see if he has any free seminars near you, he's got a calendar of seminars, a calendar of trainings, and anybody can go to the trainings. And as a matter of fact, one of the he has trainings in Fort Collins, Colorado, and in Scottsdale, Arizona. So one of the trainings that I wanted to go to with him is the suicide companioning training. And I had mentioned it to him. And ironically, the end of last week, I received a check in the mail for the foundation for a grant to go towards the training in Colorado. So we still need to raise some more money, but we have a good start. So in October, my plan is to go out to the Center for Loss and Life Transition to do the suicide companioning training. But even still, we're still going forward with our trainings and our grief groups here prior to that, but I still wanted to do it. And so I'm really excited about that. So we're going to be, by the time this aired, I'll be registered for it. So, and actually, so that's part of like the book that we started going through last week, The Wilderness of Suicide Grief Finding Your Way, which is a book that's available on his website and his bookstore. But it's also part of, like, so with the training, and one of the things that we're going to be doing, probably starting in, I think we're going to try and start it in May. So the Wilderness book has the 10 touchstones, which is kind of like the mini version, I'd say, of the Understanding Your Suicide Grief. So we're going to be doing a 12-week kind of like a 12-week closed group session, which will initially, this first one will be offered to our people who come to our groups now. We already have a few people signed up. It's a small group, no more than 12 people, and that includes the facilitators. But with that, you get the Understanding Your Suicide Grief, the 10 Essential Touchstones for Hope and Healing Your Heart, which it's a second edition. I also have the first edition. And then we have a journal. So we will all be going through this all together in a 12-week period. So that's the kind of like expanded part of this book. So last week, and we're probably only going to get through one or two because I never get through as far as we want, but that's okay. So last week we went through the first 2 touchstones, which were Touchstone 1, Open to the Presence of Your Loss, and Touchstone 2, Dispel the Misconceptions about Suicide and Grief and Mourning. Now, at the end of Touchstone 2, he has a list here of realistic expectations for grief and mourning. So we may not even get to Touchstone 3 this week. You might have to wait till next week. Okay, but let's go. You will naturally grieve, but you will probably have to make a conscious effort to mourn. And that's where learning the difference between grief and mourning. Because mourning is more on the outside. Your grief and mourning will involve a wide variety of different thoughts and feelings. You're going to go back and forth, up and down, just like we've always said. Grieving and mourning is not a linear process. It's more like probably the craziest roller coaster that I would never go on. It's not like the little roller coasters when we were kids. It's a roller coaster ride, and it's back and forth and up and down. Your grief and mourning will impact you in all 5 realms of experience: physical, emotional, cognitive, social, and spiritual. And that it does. Physical. It's going to affect you physically because it affects you emotionally, and your mind, your brain, and your body. It all goes together. Cognitive. Brain fog, widow's fog, grief. It gets foggy. Social. That's a big one. And that's where you need to be careful too. You got to find the people that you trust. Stay away from the people that are not willing to listen and not willing to understand. And spiritual, that's up to you. Everybody has their different spiritual paths, but embrace it. You need to feel it to heal it. And that's hard. You're trying to push through and you don't want to feel anything. If you're not doing the work of feeling the pain, you're not going to heal. Your grief will probably hurt more before it hurts less. And that's absolutely true. I'm still not there yet. Times it hurts so much more when I'm feeling I've been doing all the work and it should be hurting less. Your grief will be unpredictable and will not likely progress in an orderly fashion. See? Told you that before. You don't get over grief. You learn to live with it. You learn to integrate it into your life. You need other people to help you through your grief. This isn't a journey that you're going to travel alone. It's not. Even as much as you want to think you can or have to do it on your own, it doesn't work that way. It just won't. And you will not always feel this bad. Even sometimes I find that hard to believe. I even said to my cousin the other day, because she said, "Oh, you're just doing so much better." She goes, "I know you have really hard days still, but you're doing so much better." And I just made the comment that I really wish I knew if and when this pain that is in my heart, if it's ever going to go away. And she said it probably isn't. So just have to learn to integrate it. So with that, let's do our quote for the day. It is, be the one to keep them safe. If your friend is thinking about suicide, ask if they've thought about how they would do it and separate them from anything they could use to hurt themselves. There's many different ways to do that. But be the one. Be the one to keep them safe. And remember, one thing that'll help with that is if you keep the lifeline numbers in your phone, you will have this available. Call or text 988. Veterans, press 1. You can text 741-741. First responder, badges, 741-741. There's help out there. And you can be the one. Any of you can. So remember, there is always hope. Thank you.